September 2025, FBI Washington Field Office. Peter Williams, 39, Australian Ordinary Senior Manager at a defense contractor, opens a folder the FBI agent slid across. Inside, printouts of encrypted chats signed with 2 words, John Taylor. Peter's used that name for 3 years. Except John Taylor doesn't exist. What he didn't know, as the agent watched his face, is that the FBI's been reading every message for 11 months, tracing the crypto, watching him buy the house, waiting for this moment. His career will be destroyed. It's already too late. But we'll get to that. First, the email that started all of it. Rewind 3 years. April 2022. Peter sits at his desk in a Trenchant office in Washington. Trenchant is a cybersecurity division of L3 Harris, a US defense contractor. It builds hacking tools for one customer only, the US government and its Five Eyes allies, Britain, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. Peter has the perfect resume. He's former Australian Signals Directorate, Australia's version of the NSA, and a former Australian military officer. His co-workers call him Doogie. He manages the team. He has access to everything. On this particular afternoon, Peter opens a browser and creates a new email account. The username, John Taylor. He types a short message and sends it to a company based in St Petersburg, Russia, called Operation Zero. 30 minutes later, he gets a reply from a man named Sergey Zelenyuk. Zelenyuk wants to buy hacking tools. Peter has exactly the kind Zelenyuk is looking for. Operation Zero looks ordinary from the outside. It's a registered business in St Petersburg, launched in 2021 by Sergey Zelenyuk. Except it doesn't behave like an ordinary security company. The company pays finder's fees for zero-day exploits, the kind that break into iPhones, Windows servers, encrypted apps. Payouts run into the millions. No identity verification is required. Western software vendors are never told about the flaws. Operation Zero sells to whoever pays. Peter starts small. From Trenchant's library, he picks one tool, a browser exploit, and downloads it from the air-gapped secure network onto a silver portable hard drive. The metadata is stripped. Peter carries the drive home, transfers it to his personal laptop, and sends it to Russia. Zelenyuk pays $240,000 within the hour. The money arrives through a crypto account that doesn't require a real name. Peter sits at his kitchen counter and stares at the balance on a screen. No one at Trenchant has any idea a tool just walked out of the building. What happens next is a pattern. Peter sends one tool every few months. Zelenyuk pays. The payments keep getting larger. The tools keep getting bigger. By December of 2023, Peter isn't selling browser exploits anymore. He's selling full attack chains. Software that takes over an iPhone silently from a single text message. Software that opens a Windows server from the open internet. Software that watches every keystroke on a target's phone. These aren't black market tools. Trenchant built them for classified US operations, against suspected terrorists, Chinese intelligence, Russian spies. They were never supposed to leave the Five Eyes. Peter sells 8 of them. For one, he signs a contract with Operation Zero worth $2 million. Included, a 3-month maintenance clause. If Apple or Microsoft patches the vulnerability, Peter will re-weaponize it. Signed at the bottom, John Taylor. Peter is now the single biggest source of stolen American hacking tools inside Operation Zero. And nobody at Trenchant has any idea. October 2024 is a good month for Peter. His company promotes him to General Manager of Trenchant, the top job. The promotion gives him sign-off on every security audit, access to the master logs, and control of the team that would investigate a leak if one were found. That same month, Trenchant's vendor data matching system flags something strange. An unknown seller is listing one of their tools on a dark web exploit market. The fingerprint matches a product Trenchant built last year. Someone inside the company has been stealing. Peter joins the internal investigation. He chairs the meetings, asks the questions, directs the search toward anyone but himself. 8 months later, in June of 2025, Peter buys a 5-bedroom row house in northwest Washington. $1.56 million. The down payment is cash. Then come 22 watches and diamond jewelry for his wife. At 39 years old, Peter appears to be winning everything. except what actually mattered in that same month was invisible to him. If you want to know how stories like this actually unfold, subscribe to Digital Crime Scene. Step back from Peter for a moment. Inside Trenchant, a different story is unfolding. What the investigators didn't know when they flagged the leak in 2024 is how close the thief was sitting to them. All they find are fragments, a tool listed on a Russian language forum with a fingerprint that almost matches one of theirs. A second tool, months later, with the same watermark. The seller's real name is invisible, only a pseudonym is ever used, John Taylor. Logs get pulled, every access to every exploit file, every keystroke on every terminal. An urgent cable goes out from Washington to Sydney, asking the Australian office to audit its own networks. Additional security contractors are brought in. So is the FBI. Agents don't yet tell Trenchant who the suspect is. The Bureau is still narrowing down. The leak could be a dozen different engineers or a dozen different managers. But the clock is ticking. While Trenchant hunts for John Taylor is still selling. And John Taylor is still one of the managers running the hunt. February 2025. Peter is in a London hotel. He has flown in from Washington for the week. He asks one of his engineers to fly to London for what he calls a team-building trip. The engineer, a Chrome security specialist who has worked at Trenchant for years, books the flight. He thinks they're going to dinner. When he arrives at the office, Peter isn't there in person. A video call opens on the conference room monitor. Peter's face fills the screen. Peter tells him calmly that the company believes he's been selling Chrome exploits to a competitor. He is suspended pending investigation. Security will seize his devices now. Peter has picked this engineer for one reason. His exact skill set, Chrome, is what Operation Zero's buyers want most. If the investigation pivots toward him, the evidence will make sense. On March 5, 2025, the engineer, now fired, receives a notification from Apple on his personal iPhone. His phone has been targeted by mercenary spyware. Nobody knows who sent it. June 2025. Peter is at his desk at Trenchant. He's been running the internal investigation for 8 months. An innocent colleague has already been framed, the house has been bought, the watches have been bought. What Peter didn't know, 3 days before his first FBI interview, is that the Bureau already had his signature. Peter logs into his pseudonymous email and signs a new contract with Operation Zero. $500,000. Another tool, July. Peter walks into the FBI's Washington field office and sits across from 2 agents. They ask about Trenchant's leak. Peter, calm, suggests a theory. Someone downloaded the material to an external drive, he says. Probably still on the inside. Notes are taken. Peter is allowed to leave. August 2025. Within minutes of the second interview starting, the agents stop asking questions. They open a folder. The printouts are inside. John Taylor is inside. Peter's signature on the $2 million contract is inside. It's already too late. Peter confesses on the spot. He resigns from Trenchant that afternoon and walks out of the building carrying a single cardboard box. Cut away from Peter. The tools he sold for $1.3 million are now somewhere else. In Kiev, an ordinary journalist named Alexei opens a news site on his iPhone. The site looks normal. It loads normally. But inside the page, invisibly, an iOS exploit runs. Within seconds, his phone is being monitored. Emails, messages, contacts, location, everything. Google Threat Intelligence will later attribute this attack to a Russian state group called UNC 6353. What the journalist never knew is that the tools they used came from Trenchant's library. In Guangzhou, a different group of operators uses the same toolkit for a different purpose. Their targets are ordinary iPhone users who hold cryptocurrency. Seed phrases get harvested, wallets get drained. iVerify, a mobile security firm, will eventually count 42,000 compromised iPhones. The number is still growing. By the time Peter's lawyer is negotiating with the Department of Justice, the tools Peter sold have been used against civilians in at least 2 countries, for 2 very different purposes. October 2025. Peter signs a plea agreement, 2 counts of theft of trade secrets, guilty on both. February 24, 2026. Peter stands before a judge in the U.S. District Court in Washington. He is sentenced to 87 months in federal prison, 7 years and 3 months. He is ordered to pay $35 million in restitution he does not have. The same day, thousands of miles away, the US Treasury announces sanctions against Operation Zero and Sergey Zelenyuk. It's the first time a law called Piper has ever been used against a Russian exploit broker. Zelenyuk is in St Petersburg. Russia is not extraditing anyone. The tools Peter sold are still out there. 42,000 iPhones and counting, spread across 2 continents, still leaking data every day.